But that brings us back to that question: does knowledge exist separate from humans? Well, what are we talking about when we talk about knowledge? Are we talking about information? Information certainly exists separate from humans. But I think we're talking more about understanding, in which case you would be right that understanding doesn't exist separate from humans, because understanding is entirely reliant upon the person doing the understanding. That the point I was trying to make isn't that it is its own entity completely separate from humanity. It's more to the point that humans are the blood vessels, are the blood cells of knowledge. Okay? It's just like any other society. Society does not exist if you take all the humans out. But you cannot deny that there is an overall group, that there is an almost life form like force there that binds everything together and that evolves on its own. And that is the point I was trying to make. That knowledge exists separate from humans in the same way that society exists separate from humans, or more to the point, from individual humans. Okay, one example that you used was the moon. Now I'm going to use this as an example of a situation in which knowledge can exist separate from humanity. That is, separate from the person who understands it. You bring forward this controversial idea that we can't go back to the moon because no one understands today how to get there. And some people go so far as to say that we could never have gone to the moon because no one understands today how to get there. I think that's actually kind of a short-sighted argument. But it illustrates a good point, which is that if knowledge is completely contained within the head of a human being, and that it's only conveyed verbally from person to person, then knowledge can be lost. If everyone in the world who understands a particular concept dies, then that concept is lost. There's no one that knows it. It's gone. But if that concept were written down first, if that concept were stored as written communication, filed away for future reference, and then 100 years from then, someone else comes along who's capable of understanding the concept, that is very key, and you're completely right there. But if someone else comes along who is capable of grasping that knowledge, reads what is written, and understands it, guess what? You have now conveyed knowledge from person to person across 100 years. And you would still be right that knowledge only really exists in the mind of the person who understands it, but how did it exist in that 100-year span? In that point, from here to here, what form did it take? Was it gone? No, it was dormant. It was stored as potential understanding on a piece of paper. And then in the future, someone came along capable of understanding it and reclaimed that knowledge. And that reclamation was simpler because it was written down already. Someone had already made the revelation. Now, really quickly to close, and I'm probably running out of time here, but I want to cover this. There have been several key steps in the evolution of knowledge. First, I had mentioned was writing. Now, writing was not instantly accepted. You know, in my previous video, I kind of put forward the thought that as soon as writing came out, you know, it was this run to the races. Well, it didn't really happen that way. There was a lot of resistance to it. For instance, Socrates, 3,000 years later, was still resistant to writing. Eventually, it did become accepted. And there are still those today who would rather communicate ideas verbally, which is understandable because of the richness of the media. But what's the second major step in communication? I mean, we all know it, the printing press. Okay, what did that do? Now, what writing did is it opened up the ability to reference previous work without directly contacting the person who understood the concept previously. Major step. The next step the printing press allowed for the wide distribution of concepts in the same way that writing distributes concepts to that point, but in a much larger scale. So that leads eventually to the scientific revolution, because people are now referencing each other's work in ways that they could never have done before, which in turn leads to the Industrial Revolution, and you see where we're at. Now the printing press was also not immediately accepted. It was fought just as writing was. But eventually that concept took on. We have the privilege of living in a time where another revolution is taking place in the concept of communication. And what is that revolution? Now, most people are going to say the internet. No, that's not what I mean. The internet certainly is powerful, and it is certainly a force to be reckoned with. But what I'm really talking about is what we're doing right here, YouTube. Something similar to this concept. And why is that? It's precisely the reason that Socrates resisted writing in the first place, which is that this is a much more powerful medium to express ideas. Writing it down just doesn't do this justice. And I think this form of communication is popular for a reason. I hope that it becomes more popular because it allows expression of ideas in ways that just were completely unimaginable in the days of Socrates. And I think that Socrates would welcome a system like this. Even though he didn't like writing, I think that he would be on board with YouTube. Anyway, thanks for watching. Take care. Have a good day.